let's talk about some trucking stuff. Let's look at the spot market, see what it's doing. We'll be back right after this. Good morning. It is Friday, January 19th, and I have coffee. Kudos to you guys for being out there in the cold and the snow, hopefully not in the ditch, hopefully not stopped at a truck stop because the highway shut down. But I think the worst of it's over, so I managed to get a truck out of Georgia, and we're going to go right underneath all that stuff that's going through the Midwest right now, going through the Northeast, and then we'll dodge it all. And by the time he gets to his destination, it should warm up. So I timed that awesomely. So, other than that, there's I cut off the wrong channel or the wrong website here. Hold on. It's Friday, January 19th. It's definitely cold. We warmed up a little bit for the last 2 days, and then it's right back down. We had a little bit of snow last night. Of course, it didn't stick. It's all powdery because it's like 10 degrees again. So, let's see. So, yeah, you guys are probably tired of hearing about the cold and the snow. And I had a truck shut down on I-80 yesterday, but we got through it. To pick up the big moneymaker load that we get out of the West, and then got a decent money load coming out of the Southeast. So it was good to use my resources that I haven't used in a while. So it felt good to do that. So we got 2 drivers that are going to do pretty well this week. So let's see what else is going on. I guess Pale Rider did a video about the FMCSA person being fired. I'll let him do the news reading. I'm not really going to get into that. Now, I will say this, though, and this is where part of the title comes from, is nobody knows, right? And here's where that comes from. So FreightWaves had this webinar, I guess. It was free. CDN turned me on to it, which was cool. That was kind of nice. And so I registered. I missed it live because I was at an eye doctor appointment. And then, But I watched the replay once it rendered, and you can watch the replay. And it was interesting to watch. While there were some good points to it, there was a whole lot of, basically it was an hour's worth of, and maybe I need to go watch it again, but for the most part, they don't know. And the question was, is the market going to come back? And they're like, we don't know. It took an hour for them to tell you that. They had all these different charts and different graphs and, and things that could happen, things that should happen, things that usually happen. And that's been kind of the theme for the last couple of years, is we say, rates should be going up at this point, or rates should be coming down at this point, or shipping should be doing this. And, but the dynamics of trucking is changing almost on a daily basis. It's kind of crazy. At the same time, nothing ever changes, it seems like. And so what's happening, and the gist of it is that the length of time that this down market is occurring is a little bit longer than what it normally happens. Usually there's going to be this big sign or small. Actually, let me take it back. There's going to be small signs when the market is going to start to recover. Now, they did go over how many authorities went under, or shut down. I guess not under, but shut down. It went over that. It went over truck sales and trailer sales. It went over all these different things, and it was a very informative webinar. However, when it came to the prediction part, which is how it was kind of sold, they don't know, right? They're saying, well, this could mean this and this could mean that, but there's really no big signs yet saying that things are about to flip for us. And so a big part of that was about survival. Basically, everything I've talked about every day or every time I'm live is it's about survival right now. You're most of you are not raking in the cash. You're surviving. And surviving is good, right? And and I had a millionaire tell me personally, said that, always try to progress forward, but sometimes that progressing forward is just surviving, because there's a lot of people that aren't. And this was before the market started to turn. This is when I was still in the truck and rates were really good, whatever. So, but it's about this is an opportunity to slim down your operation. This is an opportunity to really know where your weaknesses are, and you can learn from them. And this is a great opportunity to learn how to dispatch, maybe go in different areas that you normally don't go. The weather has been a hardship because that affects revenue. It affected revenue for me. It affected revenue for, more importantly, my drivers. And this weather does some funky things. We already have a lot of cancellations and loads being pushed back and that kind of thing this time of year anyways. But then when you add the weather, it kind of makes it even more volatile. So, and they talked about that. They talked about, is the weather affecting things, and it is. It's making rates not completely crash like most people predicted in some areas, because they're trying to get trucks into the areas that no one wants to go, which is a big swath of area because of the weather. Just like this week, if you went south to avoid the weather, you didn't avoid the weather. If you're in Texas, you saw icy roads. If you're in Tennessee, like Nashville and Knoxville, you're kind of screwed. Kentucky's getting hammered as well. So let's get the weather map up here. And and there you go. So this is all wind chill alerts. So ironically, northern part of Wisconsin and Minnesota is not a huge part of that. But then all of this purple over here in pink is all due to, I'm sorry, I'm using the cursor over the wrong thing. is due to lake effect snow. Like if you're in I-80 in Chicago right now, or outside of Gary, Indiana, you are having a hard time today because there's this huge band of lake effect snow that's coming down. And then of course all this down here in the south is hard freeze warning. They don't salt the roads down there, so you got to be really careful on those overpasses, especially through Louisiana and Alabama, and parts of Texas. So I-10 is going to be a bit of a bear for a little bit. In my truck, if he plays his cards right, he's going to come from this area and then squeeze right in through this area right here. He might hit some of that stuff in Nashville but this is all due to be done today. And looking at the radar, he was already kind of past, so he should be all right. And that's how you have to play the game. So paying attention to weather is important. Now, if you're up here in the upper northwest, it's still kind of a mess up there. But for the most part, and then I got a truck heading northeast. And by the time he gets down that way, he can take his time because, it's open window appointments on all of his deliveries. He'll be able to take his time and kind of get there after the storm. So it's just how it is, So, so this kind of weather does change the dynamics of each market. So knowing your markets, is important. And how do you do that? Well, a lot of times it's just through asking the people that know, and also experience. You just got to learn the hard way. Like for example, I finaled out when I was at Landstar. I finaled out in Oklahoma City on a Friday afternoon. Couldn't find a load. Now, this day and age, I would have deadheaded back home, or deadheaded a longer way for something I picked up on Saturday out of Springfield or something like that. But to keep moving, but for the most part, I was stuck all the way. I did several 34s in Oklahoma City because I just I didn't learn. It wasn't until I started to learn that I realized, hey, you know what? Maybe don't do that, Steve. So, it's about learning. It's about experience. And if you're new to the spot market, then it's, or if you're new to in general, if you're like David Edwards, I see in here, you're going to get a lot of tips for winter. Sterling had a good one about breaking the ice off her fifth wheel. There's a lot of good winter tips out there. And so there are still veteran truck drivers that want to help the new guys. So, but, that comes to the spot market or just driving in general. Listen to the ones that have been through a few winters. What did they do? How do they handle their fuel? How do they handle their driving? What's the point that they shut down? What do they look at? So, I mean, it's experience is definitely, and sometimes the best experience is the school of hard knocks, man. That's how I learned a lot of the stuff that I know. Not that I know much. All right, so let's go over the comments. I see quite a few of you in here. I appreciate that. David Edwards, good morning. Trucker named Tim, good morning. Mark P, morning from snowy Philly. Yep, Northeast is getting hammered right now, but hopefully you'll be out of it soon. Randy, what's up from Phoenix? He ain't worried about nothing. Randy's in a good position. Life Like I, hey, from Dre and Deborah. Dre and Deborah, how are you? I hope you're doing well. A very happy, loving couple. I hope you guys are good. Mr. Charles, good morning. CDN, yabba dabba doo. It's Friday morning, Steve. You just wanted me to read that out loud, didn't you, CDN? You sly dog, you. Jerome Jones, good morning. Trucking with T-Bone, good morning. Week 3 of January will be in the books. Only 37 to 38 weeks left to make your revenue for 2024. Lance Calhoun says, thumbs up. I got to replace a transmission on my Jeep today. Blew apart last night. Ouch. Jackknife, good morning. Mechanic. Consumers don't want to buy stuff because inflation made products expensive. There's some truth to that. The wife and I were thinking about grabbing some dinner because she didn't feel like cooking last night. She's had kind of a rough week, and we were just like, it's too expensive. We can't justify spending that kind of money for all four of us for just because we didn't we wanted to. So you got to be more selective. And what should be happening, there's that word should, and what some brokers and what some experts, quote unquote experts at FreightWaves have said, that there's an influx of cheap goods and a decrease in expensive goods because people are watching their wallets. People are pinching their pennies a little bit. But the consumable goods is what you want to do, whether it's Coke, Pepsi, canned goods, stuff that people need, regardless of what the economy is doing. Jose says, good morning. Let's see, my name is Nobody. What's up? Henry Duncan, good morning. Jose was in Miami yesterday. He had no worries as well. DIY says, cold, boo. Boo. All right, here we go. Oser says, CDN, what calendar are you using to calculate that 2024 weekly revenue? 52 weeks in a year. Most people are going to take 2 to 3 weeks for vacation. That leaves 46 to 47 weeks left of 2024. That is a great comment. So CDN has talked to me at length about that. And I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to put in actual, vacation actually, but also breakdowns. So and not everybody wants to work too. So he's trying to do an average. Like there are people out there that will do 48 weeks or 50 weeks, but man, there's no way that you're working 50 weeks in a year. Now you might work weeks, but let's see. Okay, we're moving. All right. Sorry, my internet's being screwy again. But if you're working 5 days a week, home every weekend, essentially, that it's the amount of days, right? So that's where CDN's coming from. So, and CDN has talked about how many weeks are you actually working? How many weeks do you actually get some revenue in? And unfortunately, costs are 12 months a year. If you're a lease operator that pays by the week, the payments don't stop. They're a full 52. If you're going by a day, all right. Yeah, my internet seems to be screwy, so I apologize. So an interesting conversation for sure. Alman. Good morning. I hate this weather. You and me both. I could be a glass cutter now. Nipples. Orion. Oh man, come on. Do. All right. Flap. All right. That should do it. Flatbed Trucker, good morning. Imagine if trucking was like NFL or NBA where drivers got recruited and then traded. Sorry. See, I'm going to go back to this comment. Imagine if trucking, I'm going to read it again. Imagine if trucking was like NFL or NBA where drivers get recruited and then traded based on performance. There are a lot of companies that don't care I saw a video of a Swift driver out on like in the middle of the desert on a like a trail. Like they put these people in these trucks and then they forget about them. There's no training. And the way that insurance works, that's what cancels you out. You know, every now and then we'll get a person that applies with like trucking and they've switched jobs like 8 times in 4 years or 3 years. The hell, there was one guy that was like within 2 years. We don't take those people on. You know, a bad wreck will take you out. So there's no need to be traded. Your performance as a CDL holder is affected if you have a big screw up. And the more you've screwed up and the longer you stay in the game, the worse the companies get that will take you on. And that's how the industry is. Now, if you don't perform because you're not a good salesperson or you don't know how to negotiate, well, then your revenue reflects that. And there is no trading. There's just you're just done, or you struggle more. You struggle more and you become stronger. You know, maybe you rise above all that, right? Sorry I'm late cleaning snow off this morning. Cheap freight hauler. I'm glad we didn't go out. That dinner turned out way tastier than anything we could have bought. There you go. See? Book review tomorrow. Yeah, you just gotta let me know what time. And but what DIY is talking about is we're gonna do another book review of the final. It's called The Final Days, and it's a series from 1 second after that whole series. It's the 4th book in that series, so it's good. CDN says, "Oh, sir, look back at your own books from 2023. I predict after 2 or 3 weeks vacation, maintenance, state holidays leaves about 42 to 44 weeks a year, unless you have a second part-time driver who keeps rolling. These flow-through mud flaps don't allow snow slush through. Yeah, those things. I've never was impressed with those flow-through mud flaps. Desert Okie Pam, good morning. Companies used to train you by throwing you the keys. Yes. The guy that was part of the CDL school I went to, he told me that the way he learned how to drive a truck was he was old school. He was given the keys and said, okay, you got to load to Detroit. You'll figure it out. By the time you get there, you'll be all right. And that's how he was, quote unquote, trained. But back then, veteran truck drivers were more willing to help you, you know, and look, there's a lot of rookies out there that don't want help. You try to help them back into a place and they don't want nothing to do with you. They don't want you telling them what to do. I'm going to learn how to do this myself. So, but so there are areas where training has improved, but there are areas where training is definitely like an issue. Like you got people that have had their CDL for 6 months training new people. And to me, that seems dangerous. But what do I know? How many of you that own your truck have considered hiring a part-time driver to keep your truck rolling on your days off? It's not that easy. It's not that easy because for every person that comes, like we'll use like trucking, for example. For every person that comes on, they have to be approved. Jeff has to pay insurance on that person, whether they're running or not. And then what are you able to pay that driver? Now, I do know a person that kind of did that. Big Rig CEO. His second driver, his truck was down, and so he let him use his truck so he can get some stuff done at home. But it was under as a contractor, not as an employee. When you hire an employee, you got W-2, and it's a whole mess. So, and then we've had another driver actually try that. They shared, quote unquote, the truck. One would work for 2 weeks in the truck, and the next one would work for 2 weeks, and that partnership dissolved. So it's not likely able to be done. So I have not seen it be successful. Good morning from Kermit, Texas, Garden Spot of West Texas. At least you're in the West, right? CDN, I think that sometimes, and then remember the stress of having drivers from my last job. Sometimes I think about adding trucks, but it's also short-lived once I remember the headaches. Hats off to you guys that manage drivers or have company drivers. It's about understanding human nature. Now, would I have a company driver? No. A lot of people told me I should put a company guy in my truck, pay him $10.99. I'm like, I ain't doing that. I did not want a person's livelihood dependent on a 700,000 mile truck and I knew that was going to be an issue. If a person is trying to raise a family or is trying to keep from being homeless, they deserve better than what I could have offered. And that's, now if I had steady freight that the driver was willing to do, then that might be a little bit different story. But then there's still the issue of the truck. There's still the issue of cash flow for the truck. So that's, yeah. I don't ever see myself going into that world ever, because unless I hang out with the owner of some big manufacturer that says, hey man, if you get 10 trucks, I'll hook you up. But then getting people in those 10 trucks and to manage them, that's a whole different ballgame. And it seems like the pool of drivers seems to be, it's definitely getting interesting. Jose, I had an operator that changed jobs 5 times in 1 year. He was with me for 3 years before jumping like that, and now I would not bring him back. There's got to be some loyalty. There's got to be, look, consistency is key with anything you do in life. You want to learn how to play guitar, play it an hour a day every day, and you're going to get better. How can you, I know, guys, it is no coincidence that a person that is an owner-operator that is struggling financially also has a work history of where they've changed jobs every 6 months, or they change companies every 6 months. There's something that's not a coincidence. And how can you, like, for example, I stayed at Landstar for 1.5 years before I decided I was going to move, but only when I knew of a better company to move to. I didn't just throw a dart at a map and I'm going to try this company. I didn't do that. I was willing to try to make it work at Landstar. And I've gone over what happened at Landstar. There's a video out there in my channel for that. Just type in Snorelord Landstar and it'll pop up. And I know people that have worked twice as many companies as I have in 15 years, they've done it in 2. And then they're always broke. Their truck's always broke down. They're always looking for the grass is greener. And you got to be careful the grass is greener syndrome. You have to try to make, there are bad companies out there, don't get me wrong. But how can you tell after a month? And if it's plain to see within a month, then you didn't do your research before you jumped into that company. And I don't want to name names of companies that some of these YouTubers have recruited for before, but you have to do your research. I did research on a couple of them, and it was horrible. It's like There's no way I would have signed on with those companies that these guys were promoting. Simply because of everything I saw online. You got to do your research. And then once you pick a place and they're treating you good, man, show some loyalty. You know, if you're paying your bills and there's opportunity to grow and have freedom to run the business how you want, then stick it out. See what happens. Rig Pig, just wondering where all the snow honey bunnies are at this morning in northwestern Wyoming. -10 wind chill in Illinois this morning. We're getting that right now as well here in southwest Missouri. Cheap freight hauler common insight is excellent. It shows trucking seems easy. Drive to point A to B and then return, but not easy hiring a second driver. Yes. I asked the question about second driver was about utilizing the tool truck. That is all. No, I understand. And look, you've got some very logical answers, but we live in an illogical world. I think that's the theme here, CDN. Oh, we'll have our conversation today. I know you wanted to talk to me, and I think somebody else wanted to talk to me as well, so we can have that conversation today. Things have calmed down for me, hopefully. It's hard to find a good driver. Yes, it is. It is. We got a good team here, and you know, and you know, we're right at about 20 trucks. Seems like every time we get above 20, you know, it gets interesting. So I don't think I could trust a part-time guy to take care of a business asset that expensive. I also usually lived in, but I'm not a driver, so what do I know? No, you're absolutely right, Mrs. A. You're sharing. It's like sharing a bed. You know. I mean, you're not sleeping at the same time, but you know. Now there's a local company here that has a casual division. You work 2 weeks on, you work 2 weeks off, and you are sharing a truck with somebody, but that truck is not like moved in. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, you don't have to bring a ton of stuff on the road just to, you know, because you're only going to be out 2 weeks, you know, kind of a deal. That's a casual division. And so there are companies that utilize what CDN's talking about to keep the truck moving. And it also attracts people that are retired or semi-retired, you know, don't want to be out a month at a time, you know, that kind of thing. So there is room for that, but they're a bigger company. A single owner operator working in the spot market, that ain't going to work. My thoughts on second driver would be an experienced driver like Pale Rider who would run 3 or 4 days every couple of weeks. Can a driver be a contractor if they don't own the truck? They don't be a contractor. They're basically a company driver to the person that's hired them. Right? So in other words, if I put Pale Rider in my truck, which that was a thought I had, but he doesn't want to drive. If Pale Rider wanted to drive my truck, he would have to be approved and insured through Like Trucking. But then the truck is what the contract's with. That's what makes the money. You know, if I have 3 trucks, when Jeff does the settlements, they go to me, and it's up to me to pay the driver. And so that's how it works in our world. Now, a local company like Transland that has a casual division, that's different. And so they use your idea, but just in a different way. I feel like I need to let go of the past experiences and try it. I have a local shipper that I can get in, but they want at least 3 trucks, preferably 5. My question to you is that how much faith do you have in that? So if you own 5 trucks, you know, now if you could lease 5 trucks, that you can just give up the lease if there's nothing to do, you know, if that shipper, you know, ends up flaking on you, then, you know, and there are people that have that model as well. The grass is always greener because it is fertilized by poop. Oh, and his truck was repoed. Exactly. Music City Transport. Second drivers tend to increase maintenance costs as well. Nobody takes care of the equipment like the owner. Exactly. I've witnessed that myself. Now, the driver that had my trailer, he treated it like it was his own trailer, and I trusted him to that. But that's the other part about, I mean, when I was a company driver, I took care of my truck. I kept it clean, and I wanted to wash it every now and then, but I didn't want to pay the money for it because it wasn't my truck. But if I had to idle, I was idling. I wasn't questioning it because I'm staying warm. I don't care what your truck issues are. You know, and then I can't tell you how many times we've seen trailer brakes get worn down a lot quicker because people are using the trolley brakes instead of their own brakes, you know, on rented trailers. I mean, that's a thing as well. It's just like being a broker agent. No vacation time is very difficult to have someone cover your book of business the same way I do. It has to be intentional effort to build a team. You're absolutely right. This is a Music City. That's exactly what I was thinking. After on 84 in Omaha, 34 in North Platte, and an 18 in Rollins, finally made first drop in Logan, Utah. Now on the icy Oregon. Ooh, you've had and will continue a tough run. I think Mrs. A has the best insight to bring to our industry. She probably shakes her head at most of our crazy comments and says our biggest issues we get in the way of ourselves. There's been many conversations where my wife goes, what the hell's wrong with these people? Why would they do that? And I think she respects how I've handled my business. So, in the last, since 2014. There's some other contractors in that shipper that's been there 10 plus years. See that I would have more confidence in. So, Old School says, Alfalfa, I'm stuck in Baker City, Oregon due to chain laws. I will not change just to get into trouble. I'm with you on that. All right, we should be back. All right. Mrs. A says, see, Nan, if I weren't listening while working, I could fill a book in these comment sections. She could. Jeez. I apologize, people. This is getting stupid. CDN says his wife's got better insight than he does. Business opportunity like lumber, driverpool.com, pre-qualified drivers ready to drive your truck when you can't or need a break. I don't know if that's even plausible, CDN, to be honest with you. There's a company that will hook you up with a foreign driver that will do that. We talked about that. but how you got to pay drivers to be on retainer, and then you just can't. When a driver is on with a company, they have to be insured. You can't just like for example, let's say I still have my truck and it gets abandoned in Wyoming, okay, with the driver I had in it. I couldn't just call Pale Rider to go get my truck for me. Pale Rider would have to be qualified to come on with Like Trucking. He would have to be insured. He would have to pass all the DOT stuff. And then as a company driver, he would have to have a W-2 to just to go get my truck and bring it to me. So it's about how the regulations work. You just can't do that. By qualified, you have to be qualified with the company. For example, there are people that we've had to let go here at Like Trucking. They're not qualified for Like Trucking, so we can never hire them. Just because a third party qualifies them doesn't mean they're qualified for our company. That's how that works. So, Pop-Tart, good morning. I'm kidding. With insurance and other legal issues, I know you can't randomly hire drivers. Drug testing is okay. I thought you knew that, but you're messing with me today is what you're doing. So, all right. See if I can share the screen without killing the internet here. Of course not. All right. Let's take a 1, 2, 3 here. Take a look at 1, 2, 3. Let's 1, 2, 3. Man, I can't speak today. I'm getting kind of frustrated, so I apologize. Pop-Tart, you missed everything and nothing at the exact same time is what you missed. An insurance company basically tells you who you could put to drive your truck. And that is absolutely true. All right, so this is load availability. Let's do van first, since the majority are probably running van. All right, so there's your green is good, red is bad on this map, yellow is okay. Green doesn't necessarily mean good rates. Like Texas here is green, but the rates going in and out of Texas right now are crap. So if you're going to Texas, especially if you went to Texas to avoid weather, you're probably having a hard time right now. There is this Queen City, Texas to Linfield, Pennsylvania, $1.93 a mile, $2,500, but it doesn't pick up till next Tuesday. Let's take a look at that load anyways. Let's say we're trying to book ahead. And let's take a look at the toll cost on that. $44 in tolls, so not too bad. So, if you need to get to PA and you're in Texas, that might be a good run. Let's see, Amarillo to Phoenix City, Alabama. That picks up today. Let's take a look at that one. There's no rate on it. Now, when it says cost per day reach, yes, they're going by this rate check here. So Cargo Chief's got it at $23.57. Rate check's got it at $17.62. The truth is in the middle there somewhere. Carrier must send POD to this person within 24 hours. Covers the cost per day if you get it for that rate, but there's no rate on it, so you probably got to price it yourself. No tolls. But coming out of Alabama can be a bit of a bear for van. Although they're saying that's 218 loads coming out of Phoenix City at that time. So look at this. Irving, Texas to Plant City, Florida for $1.35 a mile. This is what I'm talking about. Cost per day reach, no. $14.58 is their asking rate. It normally goes for about $2.15 a mile, $24.23. And it's beverages, so you got to worry about freeze protect this time of year. So I would ask them why they're $1,000 of what the average rate is to go to Florida. Now, I will say this. So let me, that reminded me. So Wednesday we talked about strategic deadhead. And I said that you can call a broker, or if they call you and they need you, then you can compromise on the deadhead. So I had a truck in Florida because we were avoiding the weather, and he was happy to go down there, knowing what we were going to take a hit coming out. But there's loads coming out of Augusta, Georgia, that I'm set up with a broker that the stuff doesn't hit the low board, and they're multi-stop loads, and they're great loads. But Augusta was like 420 miles or 480 miles away. Somewhere around there. It was over 400 miles away. And so I'm looking on the low boards, I'm looking for, this city in Florida to this city in Georgia, and there was nothing. And so my broker calls me and goes, hey, I happen to have one of those loads. It's going to, and I know it was going up to North Dakota, which I looked at the North Dakota market. I got a few contacts up there I can look at, and it won't be until next week. So I'm looking at the weather. Weather looks good. So I'm like, okay, I know that this broker has trouble filling these North Dakota loads. So I'm like, okay, so I got them there a little bit. Especially with this weather, nobody in Georgia wants to go up to North Dakota. So I had that in my favor. But then I looked, and there was no loads going up to Georgia picking up, so where we can pick up one of these on Friday. So I called the broker. I said, here's the deal. I did the math. I did a so much per mile for the deadhead, and came up with a bigger, newer number, a new bigger number, which was usually more than what I negotiate with him. But he was willing to do it because, number one, we have a history with this broker. Number two, these North Dakota loads are bare to cover, right? And so we got basically what was going to be the loaded rate per mile became the all rate per mile for all miles with the deadhead. So he did it up there, and he's picking up this morning. So that's how you utilize that. I knew my market. I knew the broker's challenges because I've tried to cover a load going to North Dakota before as a broker. And I knew that our history, I've made a lot of money with this broker. So I've helped drivers make a lot of money with this broker. So it was the perfect combination. I literally put what I was talking about Wednesday into practice, and it worked. And I knew the shipper, and I knew the broker. So that risk of that 400-mile deadhead was I wasn't worried about that. So there you go. That's how you do that. Now, if I'm calling a random spot market company broker, and I ask for, X amount for the deadhead, they're going to be like, your deadhead's not my problem. There's probably 1,000 trucks within 100 miles of this place. I'll just find one of them and not pay you an extra $500. And trust me, I've had that told to me. One time I called Prime on a load coming out of Kentucky, and I was like, it was in my own truck, and it's like, yeah, man, I was still new to negotiating. I was like, yeah, man, I'm looking at a 150-mile deadhead. He's like, I'm sorry, man, I'm not paying your deadhead because I'm sure I can find a truck that's like 50 miles from there. That was my only quote unquote leverage I was using, which was nothing. So strategic deadhead works, but you got to negotiate it in if you have the leverage to do so. Pop-Tart says insurance companies control the industry. The better the scenarios to grow is vetting the driver and then buying a truck for them to run. Get the driver before the truck. Well, picking up in Lakeland, Florida to West Palm Beach for Monday. It's going to be cold this weekend down here. It is. Putting on coffee in my shop. There you go. That's why I stay in Florida. Cost per day and mileage rate is low for me. Not worth it right now. I had some fried bologna for breakfast and toast. Florida is a beautiful state, but it's getting dangerous down there. Sounds good, Pop-Tart. Maybe just add some fried green tomatoes. People in Florida are rude. Hear that, Jose? You're rude. They're trying to push Florida inbound rates down, especially on reefer loads, because it's about time for Valentine's flowers to start. Not only that, but they know that people are trying to avoid the weather. So we're talking about that Texas load that we saw for $1.35 a mile. So that's a part of it as well. Jack's Line Enterprise, good morning. Pigtail, good morning. Provost, good morning. Provost, you were in a dream last night I had. You and I were at Jeff's house, and I had stored one of my trailers over there, and someone had blown all 8 of my tires, and you were there, and I was showing that to you. Isn't that weird? Isn't that a weird dream? So, Jose says, yes, you're right. I agree on being rude. Hey, Provost, is people, he's from Florida. Are people rude? But he came from New Jersey. So it might just be a different kind of rude that he moved into. It was an expensive dream. Listen, they're like, how did all 8 of my tires blow? Nope, just me. All right. So, anyways, this is Dry Man. You're going to see some decent outbound rates coming out of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan because of the weather, but also because there's more freight in those areas. Yeah, notice Florida is yellow now instead of, a lot of times it's green, but again, green doesn't necessarily mean good rates. So the weather is definitely, FreightWaves was right about that. The weather is definitely creating some different dynamics. Now, this California thing, just ignore that state. That state doesn't exist anymore. So, all right, let's take a look at reefer. Reefer volumes are probably fairly decent for a lot of freeze protect, if anything. And again, the internet is screwing up. Something went wrong. Wow, that's a new one. There we go. Let's put this back on reefer. Well, this is interesting. Jeez. I can't win today. This is probably my weather or internet. There we go. We can get van, but we can't get reefer in here. What the hell? Well, sucks to be you guys if you're hauling reefer. Oh, there he goes. Finally. All right. So Arizona's green. Let's take a look at Arizona. Let's see what's coming out of Arizona. And we'll also take a look at Washington. Tucson to Livermore, $231 a mile. Oh, here we go. $301 a mile, $4,000 to go from Phoenix to Portland, Oregon. Again, weather related probably. A lot of, and here's the other thing. A lot of companies, when it's bad weather, they'll just have you ask for your rate. Now let's do this by all rate. Yuma to Hartford, Connecticut, $235 a mile, $6,400 to go across the country. Casa Grande, Arizona to let's take a look at this one. 221, $5,000 to go to Plainfield, New Jersey, and then Vermont, 2-stopper. Picks up Monday, right? No, Saturday. Picks up Saturday. So my guess it's probably... No, it says Mac. Okay, this is a freeze protect. Packaging materials. So my guess it's probably something plastic. Rio Rico, Arizona to Bedford Heights. Paying $257 a mile. That's not till next week, though. So you're going to go to Pennsylvania and then Ohio. That seems interesting. 45 degrees on the reefer. So let's take a look at... now you can sort this by pickup date. Make sure we get all the stuff for today first. Buckeye, Goodyear, Mesa to Ripon, California, $1.24 a mile. That's normal. Nogales to Kenosha. Not a whole lot of rates posted for loads for today. So here's one. Yuma to Dwight, Illinois, 4,200, $222 a mile. Let's take a look at what Cargo Chief's saying on that one. Cargo Chief's got it at 4,287. They're at 4,200. So 37,000 on the weight. So yeah, it's interesting to look at the reefer market out of Arizona. A lot of stuff out of Yuma. Here's Yuma to the Bronx. I guarantee this is probably produce. Yep. 3 different pickups, which is notorious for... look at green screens. They've got it at 95. Cargo Chief's got it at 65, and they don't have a rate on this. They don't have a posted rate on this yet. But you're going to the Bronx, so more likely. Yeah, mixed produce. I was right. Probably going to Hunts Point there. So, anybody who's been to Hunts Point knows it's a fun place. I've been to Hunts Point. So, just Stoking. Good morning, Steve. How do you navigate the weather when Tennessee, Arkansas, and 8177 is ice rink going north and south? You just got to take it slow. I mean, that's... I mean, look, when you have a storm system that we've gone through in the last week, there's just no avoiding it for the most part. And I would much rather be in a snowstorm in Chicago or Illinois, Ohio, Indiana than I would be in Tennessee and Arkansas. So you just, sometimes you got to shut down, and that's where the winter can cost you. Winter costs you in fuel, and it costs you in downtime a lot of times as well. So Jose says, I came from New York and the rate are as low as it always is. You see the load. Winton Diesel paid to haul an old tractor. I have no idea what you're talking about. He said $50K to ship from Montana to Tennessee. I had to bite the bullet and register for California. I have to go in there for race cars. Oh yeah. Yeah, so you had to do that Cali thing. Everybody check out Provost's channel if you can. He's got a great channel. Cool Truckin', hello. In that dream, Jeff moved to Georgia because the tire thing last year. Now, these tires were blown. They weren't drilled. They were blown. They were like... It was around Halloween, too. That was the other weird part. I was hanging out with his family during Halloween. Las Vegas has an exotic car racetrack. I've been there. Provost says been there. Video it last year. Yay, Hunts Point. I mean, overall, there's plenty worse places to go in New York City. I agree with that. But anyways, this is your reefer market. Let's look at Washington real quick. Let's see what's coming out of there. Obviously, some produce is moving right now. And if this internet doesn't fix itself, I'm going to end this feed. So, $6,000 to go from Prosser to Georgia, $238 a mile. Picks up today. $1.62 to go to California. Ugh. Moses Lake, Washington to Fort Worth, $278 a mile, $5,200. Let's look at this one. Kennewick, Washington to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Let's take a look at that one. Doesn't pick up till next week, but let's take a look. Frozen foods, so you're going to be running a reefer for a while. $216 in tolls, so I would say this rate is pretty low for that with the fuel burn and the tolls. So, at least in my world, it might work for you, but it doesn't work for me. I'm proof of being victim of this recent storm. Started out getting caught last weekend in Michigan. Now I'm playing in it in Middle Tennessee. There was a time where I was like, I avoided weather by going to Texas. Well, I got caught in a snowstorm in the middle of Texas, Dallas area. That was not fun. So sometimes you just can't avoid it. And if you're a company driver, you're dispatched as an owner, operator, lease op, then you definitely, you got to just do what you're told, man. You just got to do it. So, all right, I'm going to end this feed. This internet's getting kind of frustrating. I hope you guys have had a good week. I hope you survived. I hope you stay warm. Hope your truck didn't gel up. Hope you haven't had any huge challenges that you can't recover from. So with that being said, strength for today, hope for tomorrow. And we'll see you maybe tomorrow on DIY's channel with the book review. And then also, I doubt I'll go live Saturday. So we'll see you Monday. Peace.